Hey, beautiful souls. Self-love is an absolute necessity when it comes to our mental, emotional, and physical health. It is at the cornerstone of all healthy relationships and is an absolute need when it comes to building the life that we desire. But nowadays, it's almost become a buzzword, and it is so commonly misunderstood that it's utilized for people to practice vanity and narcissistic tendencies, now to the point to those who truly need it the most almost push it away. So today we're going to talk about how you can have true self-loving practices and behaviors and what that really means at its core. It's not easy nowadays, guys. It's become almost second nature for us to look externally for what our value is. It comes down to how many likes did I get on something, or who told me that I was worthy of being loved today, or what have I done externally that proves that I am a good person. And I have really noticed more and more that people are very afraid of who they are at their core. And it all comes from a lack of self-understanding and being in a self-loving place. So to anybody who's never been here before, hi, I'm Elizabeth Blackwell, and I spent well over a decade educating myself so that I could help others heal and find their highest and greatest selves. So let's jump into what self-love truly is and how you can utilize it to build that bright, beautiful life that you desire. So let's talk about what self-love truly is. It is about valuing and caring for yourself with the same respect, kindness, and compassion that you would give to others in this world. It is not about being selfish or self-indulgent, but at its core, it's about developing a healthy relationship with yourself. So I could go on and on about why self-love is so important and at the cornerstone of every connection that we have. But for the matter of time, let's jump into how we can move away from shame, regret, and guilt and move towards that self-love, compassion, and kindness. I did a video a while back about how to change your subconscious programming. And I am going to link that in a card above the description box and at the end of the video. Because if one of your subconscious programming or your core limiting beliefs is that you are unworthy of being in a self-loving or an external loving place, then it is going to be very difficult for you to bring in all of these new and more positive things that I talk a lot about, how you can't just cram in the new, that we have to let go of the things that no longer serve or that are holding us back so that we can bring in those newer, healthier, more loving practices. So for the first area, in order to work on that more self-loving side, a lot of times people coin this as shadow work, but this is a deep introspection of yourself, concentrating on those aspects that you are not as proud of or things that you look at as flaws. And as you look at those areas of yourself, I want you to drop them into one of two categories. They can either be stories that you have told yourself or that the external world has told you about yourself that aren't actually based in truth. Or there are the things that may be more based in truth, but you are going to put them in the bucket of things that you are working on to grow with. And I'll give you an example of each. So, somebody who has dyslexia, that they may look at themselves as, I'm not as smart as the other individuals around me, or I am dumb, which actually isn't true. Their brains just work differently than usually what the norm is. But because they work differently, that a lot of times they paint themselves into the category of I'm dumb or I'm not as smart as the other individuals around me. So that would be an example of something that isn't actually true, but is a story that you have told yourself repeatedly or you have heard from the outside world. For the second side, maybe there are aspects of you that there are some areas of truth there. So maybe you are an impatient person. And so you know that about yourself. But if you know that it is an aspect of yourself that you are working on growth in or improvement, then it helps you to shift your perspective on that side of yourself. So what are we really doing here with this part of the practice? Well, as I've pointed out before, it doesn't work as well to just try to push in the new stuff or the more loving stuff or more uplifted. That we have to know what it is that we are letting go of or working on in order to bring in the more positive. And it helps to give us that clean slate. So when we can identify the areas of ourselves or the stories that we've told ourselves that may have very little to no basis in truth, then we can know that we are working on letting go of those aspects, that they aren't actually part of us. But for the areas that are more based in truth, then we are reframing those things as something that we are working on to have growth towards. And this helps us to change those feelings of regret, guilt, shame, those aspects of ourselves that we don't like, so that we can have that more clear slate in order to bring in the positive side. And I can't talk about letting go of things without talking about the releasing of the past. That we all make mistakes, but you really do have to let go of guilt, shame, regret, of anything from your past in order to develop that true self-loving place. That there is nothing that you can do with the past other than learn from it. So if you have injured others or done something wrong in that way, then you say you're sorry and work to move past it. But also, you have to forgive yourself of past things, whatever those mistakes may be. That all mistakes are an availability for a learning lesson. And I always like to point out that these are not instantaneous changes, that we are working on things and we are building self-love. And anytime you are working on building, creating, that it will take some amount of time, that it's not going to be instantaneous. But one of the things that will speed up this process is your availability to yourself and your willingness to be honest with who you are at your core. So then you need to establish your needs, that everybody's needs are going to be different. Whereas some people may have a need for solitude or alone time. Others have a need for connection. But within your physical, emotional or mental, and then spiritual sides of yourself, establish what your needs are in each of those areas. Because unless you know what your needs are, then you can't prioritize them. And then you need to establish your desires or your wants. A lot of times I'll call this know you're happy. But again, everybody is going to be different on what their version of happy is. But you have to know what that is so that you can know the direction that you are heading as you establish these more self-loving patterns. And then the next area that you want to focus on is to know your boundaries. Know what things that you will allow people to approach versus what is your absolute do not cross. But again, you have to know those boundaries in order to establish them within yourself, but as well as within your connections. And what we're doing with all of this is that we are basically forming a blueprint of what you require in order to have that self-loving or more holistic self. And then the true self-love comes within staying within inside that blueprint. But we have to know these areas and establish what is correct for you so that you're able to stay within those guidelines. So now we have this base blueprint of what it is that you are trying to create. The self-love really comes in staying within those guidelines of what it is that you are trying to build for yourself. So we have figured out the areas of growth that you are working on and the things that you need to let go of because they aren't really your truth. You've figured out your needs. You've figured out your wants and your happies. And you've established your boundaries with others. So now I'm just going to give you some tips in order to stay within your guidelines so that you can stay in that more self-loving place. For the first suggestion that I have is that do not compare yourself in any way to anyone else's journey or what they are trying to build. That comparison is one of the quickest ways to step out of that self-loving place. Their needs are different. Their happy is different. Their things that they need to let go of, their lessons, all of it is different. So don't compare you or your journey to anybody else. The second thing is to work on your inner dialogue. Sometimes we are our own biggest bullies. Be kind to yourself. You know the things that are positive versus negative. So start to pull your thoughts in the more positive direction. Where our focus goes, our energy flows. So when you can work on that inner dialogue and pull yourself in that more positive direction, it will help to impact so many areas of your life. Which this leads me into the third thing, which is surround yourself with positive and uplifting people wherever possible. Clearly, there are times where we don't get to pick the individuals who are around us, but for the ones that you do get to choose, make sure that they are a reflection of the ways that you want to think or the directions that you're heading in, that if they are in a more positive state, then it will help to pull you in a more positive state, that you will work to uplift each other. And then recognize and celebrate your goals and your accomplishments, that this will help to keep you in a more self-loving place when you see that you are doing a good job in the areas that are important to you. I usually recommend that you have short, medium, and long-term goals, but recognize each time that you get to one of those goals and celebrate yourself. These are the small steps that will help to cause huge changes within your life. And self-love and understanding is the framework for all of that and building that bright, beautiful life that you desire. So I'm going to link here the video about how to work on changing your subconscious programming, because that is the first thing of understanding those stories that you've been telling yourself. So with that, I am sending you all so much light and love, and I hope you all stay well, my friends.